Welcome to the Voices of Global Speakers, the podcast for professional speaker associations and their leaders around the world. We are partnering with Global Speaking Fellows to help professional speaker associations give their members global perspective, knowledge, and opportunities for cultural exchange. As we lead up to Professional Speakers Celebration Day on March the 14th, I'm Neerja Singh, the Professional Speakers Association of India, PACI representative to the Global Speakers Federation Board. And today, I'm thrilled and honored to be interviewing Ross Bernstein, CASP, CPAE, and GSF Global Speaking Fellow, the best-selling author of nearly 50 sports books. He's a peak performance business speaker and proud member of the Speaker Hall of Fame. Ross has keynoted conferences on all 7 continents. He's been featured on CNN, ESPN, and Fox News, as well as in the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and USA Today. He regularly keynotes 130 conferences per year. And Ross, your mission and purpose, you say, whenever you stand on the stage, is to get your audience all thinking differently about how they can raise their games to the next level. Please join me in welcoming CSP, CPAE, and Global Speaker Fellow Ross Bernstein. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Hi, Neerja. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be with you.
Ross, so many letters after your name. I'm simply Neerja Singh, PACI. Which of these are you the proudest of, Ross, and why?
Well, they're all interesting. I mean, the CSP is a designation anyone in our business can earn. It's not an award. It's a designation that says you've spent your professional career becoming a professional speaker, and you have the numbers to prove it. So anyone who can get a CSP, I would recommend do it. It's a great designation to earn. The CPAE is for the NSA, National Speakers Association in the United States. That's our Hall of Fame. So I'm very proud to be a member of your Hall of Fame. It's something that we're voted on by your peers. So that's very exciting. And that's, it's not a lifetime achievement award. It's based on people that are running successful speaking businesses. So I'm very proud of that because you don't sign up for that. It's something that you are awarded. And the Global Speaking Fellow is something I really wanted. It's the CSP for global, meaning you have to speak internationally a lot, not just in a few countries, but you have to go on most of the continents. You got to speak in Africa and Australia and China and Asia and North America and South America. So it's something I really wanted, but it really ties into my passions of speaking, helping people, but also travel, which I really love to do. And so that really was a wonderful way for me to bring my wife and daughter with me around the world and to enjoy those. So yeah, they're all meaningful, but they don't mean a whole lot.
I like they're all meaningful, but they don't mean a whole lot. How many of them are there, Ross? How many Global Speaking Fellows? And when did you achieve this honor, and how did it change your speaking career?
Well, I think there's maybe 40 total. I'd have to look at the number. Every year there's maybe 1 or 2 new people that earn it. It started with an honorary class. I think the first class of 20 people were grandfathered in. They were just sort of given, they had to create a class, but now it's very stringent policy in how you have to earn it. You have to be able to prove that you've spoken in person on a lot of different stages in a lot of different countries. So as far as how it changed me, I don't know if it's grown my business. I'd like to think so. I know that when a meeting planner or a CEO wants to hire me, it gives them peace of mind to know that this is a professional speaker. Here's someone who has been on other stages around the world, is not going to say something that's going to be embarrassing to our company or offensive to our attendees. So I think, if it comes down to the final candidates, it might win you some business because a
Hmm.
speaker bureau or a senior executive might realize that you're maybe, a professional, that you're qualified. So if you can get it, I would say go get it. It's really a wonderful thing to do, and it's a lot of fun when you're doing it in the process because you get to see a lot of great places.
Ross, they say most speakers undergo a transformative life experience and that teaches them a lesson, and many of them in turn want to share it with others. That's why they take to the stage. What were the dots in your life that came together to make you take the mic and the stage, Ross?
That's really interesting. I think all of us have a path, Neerja, right? I mean, everyone,
Yeah.
no one just starts out being a professional speaker. You had a previous life, you had a business, you had um, a tragedy, an amazing accomplishment. You were a
Hmm.
professional athlete. You were a military hero. You were a senior executive that did something amazing that gave you the right to get on a stage and talk about it, and it's a repeatable message that companies are willing to pay you for. So my previous life, I was a sports author. I'd written about 50 books, and that was my passion, was studying athletes and coaches. And I didn't write books like speakers write books. I wrote books because I
Hmm.
wanted to eat. I had to sell them, and that was my business. So every year I'd write a few new books, and I would go sell them, and I would do radio interviews and TV interviews and book signings, and I had to sell books. That was my job. And it transitioned into speaking when I realized that business was being disrupted. Amazon was disrupting my business the same way
Exactly.
Uber and Airbnb are disruptive. So I realized I needed to transform my content from being into a book to being a
Hmm.
speech. And now it's transformed into movies and screenplays and documentaries. So I think it's, dealing with change. Everyone in our business, we have to deal with change. And but we've all had those dots. I like how you said that transformative moment. And I think for me it
Yes.
was wanting to transform and change, and realizing that books aren't going to do it. Ebooks, Kindles, Nooks,
Hmm.
Audibles, they were changing the book business. So I had to get into speaking, and thank goodness I did.
Ross, when I was reading your profile on your website, there was so much there that was blinking at me, brag worthy. But then I shared some material with you and you wanted it to be modest. But surely there is one thing in your life that you'd like to brag the most about.
Well, one of my most fun stories is my background. People often ask me, how did I get into sports?
Mm.
Was I an athlete? And my answer is, I wish I was an athlete. You can see from my office that I love sports. I'm very
Yes.
passionate, specifically Minnesota sports, where I live in the United States. But my claim to fame is I tried to play ice hockey at the University of Minnesota, and I didn't make it, and I wound up getting cut from the team. But I wound up becoming the team mascot, and you can see here. This is actually my. I was a character called Goldie the Gopher, a giant gopher, like a squirrel,
Go
a
for.
gopher. So that was my claim to fame, is I became the mascot. I would dress up in this big costume and entertain all the fans. And that actually inspired my very first book when I was 21 years old. I was a senior in college at the University of Minnesota, and I wrote a book called Gopher Hockey by the Hockey Gopher. And
Wow.
that's what got me into writing and eventually speaking. So that's my most famous crazy story.
That's creativity. Ross, we are doing this series to celebrate the Professional Speaker Celebration Day that's coming upon us soon. How do you view this? And why do you think it is important for the speaker community to observe this day?
Well, yeah, and thank you for including me, and thank you for all you do. Um, it's such an important day just to give credibility to our profession. I know that professional speaking is an emerging profession in a lot of places. In the United States, it's been a very big deal for a long time. We just had our 50th celebration anniversary of the National Speakers Association, but all of the other chapters like PSA India, and they're growing. So this is a day, March 14th, Pi Day, to celebrate speakers and the Global Speaker Federation, and to encourage more people to join our local, state, national chapters, to get involved. High tides truly do raise all ships. The more people that are involved, part of our association helps all of us have more credibility as a professional association. So I think it's really important, and I'm so grateful people like you are volunteering your time and at the local levels, and encouraging more people to do what we do professionally.
And everywhere I go, speakers say they want to speak in India. Why is that so? And I also want to tell them the speakers are not well paid in India because it's not yet an industry which has really taken root and found acceptance. So, what can we do to change that perception in your view?
Hmm. Well, I feel terrible. You were kind enough to
Terrible.
ask me to come speak at your annual conference in New Delhi, and I really wanted to come because I've never been to India. I've been to the Maldives, I've been to Thailand, I've been to Nepal, I've been all around India, but I've never been to India, and that's a country. I've been to about 100 countries, but that's one that I really want to come to. But I think that India is a real bucket list place for people to go, especially from the United States. It's very exotic. The people are so unique and kind, and it's just a place people want to be. So many movies we see all about India, and it's very hard to get to. It's a long way from the United States, and there's so many cities that are, I think, are you
Hyderabad.
in Hyderabad, which is a city bigger than New York City, but
It's
but it's one of, there's probably 20 cities in India that are bigger than New York City. So there's just so many amazing places to see and to go. And so I think it's wonderful that PSA India is growing, and there's people like you who are so eloquent and multilingual, which is so important, just globally. But as the business grows, it's about convincing companies that it's really important to bring in those local professional speakers and to pay them what they're worth, to teach their people, to help their people to be better. And that's what we do. We help people. We help people think differently, do differently, act differently, and ultimately that's good for business. So United States is still the most revenue potential. So a lot of the top speakers wind up moving here, but
yes.
the whole pie needs to get bigger, and we need to make sure that we're encouraging companies to pay their speakers what they're worth.
Now, as the professional speaking rises in popularity everywhere and there's a greater acceptance of diversity, there are some speakers that feel very diffident about their accents. And what would you tell them about their potential in the market? Because those voices are important to us.
Yeah, I think, Americans, we speak English. So we just assume everyone in the world speaks English, which isn't good. We need more voices. We need more diversity, right? We need more women, more people of color, more people with amazing stories to tell. So certainly the more languages you speak, the better. I mean, you could come to America and deliver a keynote speech, but for me to come to India, that means there has to be an audience of English speakers, or they would have to pay for translation. And
Yes.
that's expensive.
That's languages. How about their English accent?
It's hard, but I think as long as you're clear and you can relate and connect, then I think I speak conversational French, and I lived in France for a while. And I remember one time I was keynoting a huge conference in Brussels, Belgium, and they speak French there is one of the languages they speak there. And I maybe did 10 minutes in French. It seemed like a
French.
lifetime for me, and
Mm.
I'm sure it was horrible. But they were so happy that an American
Yes.
could speak something other than
Yeah.
English and at least tried. So
Try.
I think if
Exactly.
if you try and you give it your best effort, I think audiences are always going to be forgiving of you. And but you got to do your homework. You got to understand what words to say and not to say,
Mm.
and it's so it can be very scary if you don't if you're, it's not your native language.
I know. Ross, what have been your biggest challenges in speaking globally, and how do you go about preparing yourself culturally?
Hmm. Well, there are so many challenges that we're
Mm.
dealing with these days. I think um, it's just been challenging on so many different levels.
Mm.
Post COVID, right? During COVID, it was going virtually and being on Zoom, and now it's getting back in person. And I think there's a lot of things. One of the biggest challenges for me is um, robocalls.
Mm.
These phone calls that are m- we get all these spam phone calls,
Spam.
and as a result, no one wants to answer their phone. So it's been very challenging for me. I like to call people when I get an email request to speak. I want to call them and I want them to hear how excited I am and how I'm going to customize my program for them. And I want to learn about them and their culture and that event theme. And I want them to know that to hear the real me, not just an email where I'm saying, here's my fee. And the problem
Yes.
is it's getting harder and harder and harder to actually have people pick up the phone, especially young people. They're used to dealing with technology and texting, emailing. So I think if I can get someone on the phone, I
Mm.
have, maybe a 75% chance of closing that deal, winning the
Close.
business. If I don't, that number goes way down. So that's a huge disruption. I think it's just people answering their phones.
Mm.
Um, Beyond that, there's companies are doing less meetings. They're being virtual. Younger meeting planners, they like TED Talks. So they're saying, hey, we want to hire you. We want you to do a TED Talk. Well, 15 minutes? Really? I'm an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. So they want shorter time.
Mm.
The metaverse is coming. I've already had a few
Yes.
events in the metaverse. So now, companies are wanting to be virtual and in the metaverse.
Mm.
So that's going to change in-person events. The way young people view meetings and events is changing.
Mm.
So I don't know how long they're going to have old white guys up on a stage, um, and that's the truth. And for better for worse, it's just they want new different ways.
Yes.
They want it very interactive. They don't want someone preaching to you. So it's just
Mm.
changing. And I you could see
Mm.
during the pandemic, a lot of the older speakers just kind of they said, I'm out. I don't want to learn this new language. I don't want to do virtual. I don't want to, it's a different time. So it's really evolving and changing. New topics like generative AI, chat GPT, how it's changing, mental health, creating workplace loyalty, being able to hire and keep young people. These are the hot topics right now. So there's a lot of change and disruption happening in our business, and but that means there's a lot of opportunities. So if
Yes.
you can do something different, then I think there's opportunities for you.
So you're hopeful. In other words, you're hopeful about the
I
way
am
things are
hopeful,
going.
but it's challenging. I typically do 130 keynotes per year, and every year I have to find 130 new customers. I'm not the
Mm.
kind of person where I work with the same company over and over again. I'm a keynoter, so I come in,
Mm.
I speak, and then I recommend a friend, and I'm on to the next one. So to find new business, it's challenging, and businesses are changing the way they connect, the way they hire people, the way they communicate, the way they lead. So everything is changing, and if we don't keep up and change, then we're going to be irrelevant. So challenges, but lots of opportunities too.
That's right.
I think the key to, if I could add to Neerja, is research. To be a professional speaker, to be
Mm,
we're very commoditized. You know,
mm.
when they research, you know, I want to find a leadership speaker, a sales speaker. There's literally hundreds of thousands of them that
Yes.
show up on Google, that on bureaus. So you have to be unique and you have to own your category. So you have to be very, very specialized within the realm of what you do. And you have to be an expert. And to be an expert, you can't just talk about something because you read articles. You have to spend your life researching it, living it, being passionate. For me, that's sports and studying athletes and having access as a working member of the media to talk
Mm,
to them and have access to them, get stories from them, be able to
mm,
share them in a way that's going to help someone sell a product differently. So I think research is really the key to being unique and to differentiate yourself. There are so many people that do the same thing that you have to not only differentiate yourself, but be able to articulate it fast. Great website, great video testimonials. These are the
mm.
things that are really important now in this new generation of professional speaking.
Let me put you on a spot, Ross. Who are the three speakers? Could you name three speakers who do it differently and who are your, well, you think they're really walking the talk?
Well, one of the speakers who I know you know is Sylvie DeGiusto.
Yes.
Sylvie, I think, is a very, very, very involved with Global Speakers Federation.
Mm.
She's a rock star. She's a dear friend. I've been out in her boat in Tampa Bay in Florida where she lives.
Okay.
She's a wonderful human, but she's brilliant. She was the
Yes.
opening keynote speaker at Influence, the main conference for National Speakers Association this year, and she had this incredible new program using technology, using
I I saw
this
that.
mesh, yeah, with the lighting, and it was kind of like being in the metaverse in person, just
Wow.
showing like a look into the crystal ball of the future. And Sylvie is from Europe, so she speaks several languages, and she's just extremely popular because her topic is very unique and she's exotic and
Mm.
she's an amazing person. So people love her and they love, but she's that whole package. She's able to do a lot
Wow.
of different things. Um, and she just has an amazing stage presence where she's able to command a stage. And she has limitations with her accent because she's
Mm.
Austrian, but she makes it work beautifully. So I think that's a
Yes.
great example of someone who can really do things differently. I hear your dog there. Hello. Uh, and then I
Mm.
think another speaker who's pretty amazing right now is Jason Dorsey. He might be the most successful speaker in the entire National Speakers Association, but he has a research company and he is constantly doing research and delivering that research back to his clients in the form of um, research projects, in the form of keynote speeches, in the form of data, and they love him. So he goes out and he has a business where they interview, you know, hundreds of people, thousands of people, and basically he focuses on how that affects the buying habits of Gen Z. So how is your company going to be able to sell to Gen Z? That's what he talks about. But he's phenomenal. And then if I had to pick one more person, I might pick Ruby Newell Legner because Ruby is the new president of GSF and she's a dear friend. She is also a sports person like me, but she is one of the most beloved people in the National Speakers Association. She speaks all over the world. Companies love her. She speaks to major league sports teams, huge hospitality companies. And she's just one of those people who is magnetic. People just love Ruby because of how she treats people, of how thoughtful and kind she is, but just wicked smart. So smart and able to really understand what companies' problems are by asking the right questions, listening, and then delivering feedback in the form of a keynote that really helps them think differently. So those are three people that, if you want to Google three people that are doing phenomenally well and why, those are three people to study what they're doing. They're doing great.
I've had the fortune to meet all of them and to know them.
Yeah.
Ruby, I met in Dublin during the Global Speaker
Mm.
Summit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sylvie, I've gotten to work closely with on the Professional Speaker Celebration thing. And Jason Dorsey, I've been reading his content because I too talk on generational diversity and he's a Gen Z person. So,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
What designation is left for a speaker to aspire to after the Global Speaking Fellow? And what kind of a legacy would be the kind one would want to leave?
There, there in NSA, National Speakers Association, the main award every year. Ruby was a recipient, and Dr. Malador, who is the former
Yes.
president of the GSF, an amazing man, so smart. They won the Cavett Award, which was named after the founder of the National Speakers Association, and that's our highest award. It's given once to one person every year, to the person who gives and serves the community the most. So it's not something you ask for or lobby for. It's just something that if you do all the right things and you help enough people, that your peers eventually someday, hopefully, will nominate you for that award. And Ruby and Dr. Malador are recipients because they have volunteered and given and served the community with thousands and thousands of hours of service and just helped and mentored people. And that's why they are deserving of those.
All right. And finally, Ross, what three attributes would you lay store by in a speaker if a new speaker, emerging speaker, were to be mentored by you? What three attributes would you strongly, strongly urge?
Well, I would say number one, you have to be great at speaking. If you're not a great speaker, if you're not funny, if you're not dynamic, entertaining, this is not a business. It's a hobby. And that's okay. There's a lot of people that this isn't going to be their business. But to make it a business, you have to be on stage and you have to be amazing. Every time you speak, that speech needs to lead to more speeches. People need to come up to you and say, please come share your message with my company. Come talk to my group, and we're going to pay you a lot to do it. That is the secret, is to be repeatable, to make this a repeated business. And to do that, you just have to be amazing. And that means studying every other speaker. That means practicing a million times so that you can be great without notes, and just to be on stage delivering great content, which requires research and asking a lot of questions. And that's first. Number two, I would say be generous. Give a lot of referrals. I give hundreds of referrals every year to my friends, my colleagues. I want to get them business. I want to help them. I don't monetize it. If I get my friend a gig, then that means they're buying me beer. So I don't ever ask for money. I won't take money. I want karma. I help them, they help me. I also give referrals to my clients to recommend new clients to them, to recommend other industry professionals that may want to partner with them. So I'm always thinking, who can I help? Be generous, mentor people, serve, give, like you, Neerja, volunteering, being on the PSA India board, helping to plan the conferences, be involved. And then lastly, I would say really understand technology. You need to have a great video. You need to be proficient in doing virtual presentations. You need to have a great website. You need to be able to deliver, be fluent in technology, and to be able to understand it and live in this new world, because this is the new world. You need to be great on LinkedIn, but you also, I think, need to start thinking about TikTok and Snapchat and other platforms that maybe you didn't think about before, because these next generation of younger meeting planners, professionals who are going to hire speakers, are learning about speakers differently. They understand speakers differently, and everything is changing in this business. So I think you just have to be very open and receptive to change. You still have to ask for those video testimonials. You still have to do the old school way of thinking, picking up the phone, calling people. But I think you have to be open to new ways of doing business that have really never been done before. And I think we're seeing it now with generative AI and different ways people are starting to win new business.
Truer words were never spoken. Thank you, Ross.
And if you can go speak to another chapter, go. I was just in New Zealand, and I got to speak to PSA New Zealand, and I got to hang out with Monica Moore, who I know is just at your event
She told me
in
about,
India.
yes.
So if you can give and serve and talk to other chapters, that's a great way to get involved, help people. And the more people you help, the more successful you're going to be.
Oh, that's a lovely note to end on, Ross. The more people you help. That's beautiful. Thank you so very much. And on that note, it's Ross and I wishing all of you a very happy Professional Speakers Celebration Day. Thank you so very much, Ross. Thank you.
Thank you, Neerja.
This is the real star of the show. Not Ross or Neerja. This one.